Alright guys, here we have the Empire Strikes Back 40th Anniversary Star Wars The Black Series. Luke Skywalker and Yoda from his Jedi Training on Dagobah. And I have been waiting for this for so long since I saw it announced. I thought it looked beautiful. I'm a little leery on the Yoda, I don't know. His body's a little small, but I mean, I think that's just really meant so he can fit in the backpack. But we'll talk about that more later. You got some cool packaging. Empire Strikes Back 40th Anniversary up top there, if you can see that. Luke Skywalker and Yoda 4 and up, so not for children under 3 years, made by Hasbro. Some cool art of Mark Hamill and a little Yoda puppet there. It is D4, Luke Skywalker and Yoda Jedi Training. And on the back it says, commemorate the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back with Luke Skywalker and Yoda figures. At the urging of Obi-Wan, Yoda agreed to instruct Luke, developing his Jedi abilities. So you get a nice shot of Yoda training Luke right there. I'll darken that up so you can get a little bit of a better look. And down here you get some attention, whatever, some warnings. And if you want this barcode, I will zoom it in here and focus it, and there you go. There's the barcode, so screenshot it. Anyways, you've got the barcode, you've got some insight into what the packaging entails. Now let's see what is up with these figures. So starting off with Yoda's first head sculpt here, you can see it's the eyes open head sculpt. It's a new head sculpt than what we got previously, although they do look quite similar. Obviously they're the same fucking character, but it is a little bit of a different head sculpt. It's a bit more round and just wide overall. It's a little bit bigger. And it's kind of ironic because the body's smaller and this body's bigger. But aside from that, this is a really beautiful head sculpt. It's much better than the one we received before. I mean, the shadowing on it is just beautiful, man. The hair just is sculpted fine, but really just the shadowing is what really makes this head sculpt just pop, man. Because, I mean, if you look at this old head, you literally have, like, nothing, just plastic. This really gives it a very nice, realistic feel, and I really like this head sculpt. And here's the second head sculpt we receive, which initially in the packaging is not even visible. So you're actually getting more than what you think you're getting. And unless you're like me and you watch all the announcements and stuff, which I'm guessing most of you do, but if you're just some guy who went out and bought this or some girl and you're like, oh wow, this is a cool figure. If you open it up, you'll see that there's some more stuff in the bottom, some extra hands and heads and whatever. But this head is really beautiful, man. It's an eyes closed head, very reminiscent of what we saw when he lifted Luke's X-Wing out of the swamp in Dagobah in Episode 5. And it looks fantastic. Again, beautiful shading on this dude. Really, really nice. Overall, the sculpting is great. We got some nice curved ears on him. Just a very peaceful looking Yoda that looks good. And if you want to swap out these heads, they're on a little peg here that has a ball on the end. You're going to want to make sure you get this necklace kind of tucked behind his collar, so you don't want it to get kind of in there. And then you just pop it on, and you can see it pops on very easy, and they actually kind of sculpted the neck as a part of the head. So it actually looks pretty nice overall. And then here is the cane that he comes with, the only other accessory that Yoda comes with, unless you count Luke's backpack, but that's more of a Luke thing, although Yoda does kind of sit in it. But here's his cane. It's very, very, very tiny, much, much smaller than the cane we got with the previous Yoda. And it looks good for the most part. I dig this cane, and I think it looks pretty nice. They could have done some better paint work. I like the darker shade of brown, personally. I think that fits better. But these look pretty much identical aside from size, and it looks good overall. And if you do want Yoda to hold his cane, just kind of swoop it into his hand there, and kind of, yeah, you can see there. You just kind of swoop it in, you like hook it, and it just fits in. So he does hold his cane very, very nicely. It fits in there very easy. Just kind of slide it in there, and yeah, it fits in both hands. Very, very nice. I personally like to pose him, making it kind of look like he has one hand on the other when he's walking with his cane. I just kind of pull this cloth over as much as I can, and you can kind of make it look like this dude is chilling with his cane. Both hands set on top of the cane. Very cool. Then here's the new Yoda next to the old Yoda, and as you can see, the old Yoda is a much chubbier, bigger Yoda than the one we see here. It's kind of up to debate what you feel is a better looking Yoda, a better size for him. Because I mean, when I look in pictures and stuff, he's kind of at like anywhere from like a little over knee height to up to the waist. And if you throw Luke in there, this Yoda is kind of up by his, closer to his thigh, a bit above his knee. And this one is up by his waist more. So I mean, I'm going to say somewhere right in the middle would be like a perfect size for him. But I think either works. Really, I think the reason behind this Yoda being so tiny, his body being so small, and the head being so big, is so you can just plop him into the backpack here and you can see he fits in there very nicely, but I believe that is why he is so small. And you can see he fits in Luke's backpack so nice, man. He fits in there just perfect. And again, I'm gonna say both these sizes are, I don't know, they're decent. They're kind of accurate both in their own right, but like I said, a sweet spot would be right in the middle, I think. However, this guy's body, no question, is a bit smaller, or maybe his head's just too big for his body, but I do think they definitely made this body a perfect size for this backpack, honestly. And I think if they would have made the backpack any bigger, it would look really freaking clunky and awkward. So I think for overall, it's pretty accurate. If you do try to put this Yoda in there, it is an absolute pain. You can probably get him in about that far. It looks pretty awful. So I think they did a pretty good job with the size. I will just say right off the bat that the new Yoda literally cannot hold this lightsaber at all. So if you're like, dude, can he hold the lightsaber? No, obviously not. These hands are freaking tiny, man. He's such a small figure. I mean, he can hold it like this, but it just does not look right at all. I'm not a fan of that. One other thing too, if you wanted to pop off this head and put this one on, it doesn't work at all. That peg that goes with this one is a lot smaller than this ball joint here. You can see you have to have a lot bigger hole in the bottom of the neck, so you really cannot interchange the heads at all. It just looks really clunky and awkward. Here's the old Yoda head on the new Yoda body too. And you can see it does fit on there, but like it doesn't fit. It just kind of slides on there. So I mean, if you wanted to put this head on him, you could and just kind of rest it there, I guess. That looks decent, and I mean, I think that the size is a bit better than this one, although they're pretty similar, and I don't know, I personally don't really like this head sculpt as much as I like these ones. But that's just my personal opinion. So if you wanted to do that, you can. After doing some debating, I definitely think this Yoda is way too big. He's a chubby little man. That's what he looks like, really. He looks like a little person in there, or a child or something. And this looks a lot more like what we saw in the film, dude. He looks more like something that Jim Henson would create. You know what I mean? He just looks more like his film counterpart. Like a puppet, basically. That's how I feel anyways. I like this better. I think he could be just a tiny bit bigger, but I think the size is perfect because you can really fit him in that backpack, and that's cool. So overall, this is the best Yoda we have seen come from the Black Series, in my opinion. He's the second Yoda we've seen. Well, I guess the third. He's been re-released with some better paint, but this is a completely new sculpt. Very, very nice looking. And I'm going to say this. My only problem with him is I think the body proportions, the more I look at him, are actually fairly accurate, but the head is just a little bit on the big side. I mean, relative to Luke's head, it's about the same size as Luke's head and a lot wider. Where when I look on the box here, it doesn't look like Yoda's head is like a hell of a lot bigger than Luke's. You know what I mean? I mean, it looks pretty freaking big, but in terms of length, really, it doesn't look like it should be that big compared to Luke's, in my opinion. So I think his head's a little bit on the large side. It could just be a little bit smaller, and I think he would be literally the perfect Yoda figure, in my opinion. And maybe give him a hand where he could hold a lightsaber or something down the line. I know he doesn't have a lightsaber in the freaking Empire Strikes Back, obviously, but it'd be cool to see this re-released with the lightsaber, maybe a little bit smaller head, in my opinion. Or maybe re-release him with a Jedi Council chair. That'd be pretty dope. But anyways, looking at his articulation, his head does not go far down at all or far back whatsoever. His arms do go out pretty far, all the way around. Looks like he has some rotation there, a single jointed elbow. It's really hard to see these joints. I'd take this thing off if I could, but you cannot because of the belt. So I mean, he does have a single jointed elbow, rotation at the wrist here. You can see his nice paintwork on his hands and stuff. Looks pretty good. I'd talk more about the detail, but it's really just this cloth and this necklace that look really nice, and some good belt sculpting. Under this is really just kind of some wrinkles and stuff, but literally no paint or anything aside from the toes here that look very nicely done. No really bad paint imperfections. Everything's pretty good and pretty straightforward. So you can see rotation at the wrist. There's no hinge or anything, but you do get some good movement from his arms, despite there being a little carpet on him, a little cloth, which kind of sucks but works at the same time. Like, it looks more screen accurate in my opinion, but at the same rate you don't get a lot of utilization out of the articulation that's in there. And one thing I do want to note too is this guy's way more articulated than the old Yoda because he actually has joints in his knees. The old Yoda did not. He does have a rotation as well. His legs go pretty far forward, decently far forward, and pretty far back as well. But like I said, it's kind of hard to navigate what you're doing here because of this carpet here. So you just want to lift that up and then stick it out like that. You can see two little like ball pegs that his legs hang on. The single jointed knees here are just awesome. It really, really works. They actually sculpted them to like kind of hide with the leg there. So it actually really fits very well. Then he does have like a little ball joint type hinge at his foot. It looks like, yeah, it looks like a hinge of some sort. And a tiny bit of ankle pivot. So you don't get a whole lot of movement out of the feet there. But he is a fairly articulated Yoda in my opinion. Like he was very badass. I really like this new Yoda a lot more than the old one we got. So very, very cool. Could use a tinier head. Not much tinier though. If it's too much smaller, it'll look terrible. Just a tad smaller. But I mean, this really works well and it's a beautiful figure. So then with Luke, we get this blaster, which we have seen before with his previous Bespin release, the Cloud City Luke Skywalker from his duel with Vader where he gets his hand lopped off. Spoiler alert. Obviously, it's not much of a spoiler. Everyone's seen it. And you can see just some paint there on the hilt. Pretty nice looking overall, nice metallics. Looks pretty good. He does come with an extra hand just to hold this gun. And all you have to do is slide it in there, rotate it out, and then back in. And you can hook that finger right in there. And it looks very nice. It has a really nice, hold on it. It's not going anywhere. So very cool. Then we get the Skywalker lightsaber here, which is very, very detailed. You can see the button is even painted. There's gold there. Really, really beautiful looking. I really like this tone of blue. Not too light, not too dark, just perfect. And just a very nice vibrant metallic color. Really no imperfections at all. He does have a little hook on the bottom there, but there is no place to put the lightsaber on Luke. So kind of a bummer. But you can obviously pop this out as well, and it takes quite a bit of force and stays in there really well, so that's cool. And he obviously comes with the gripping hand for the lightsaber, which we have seen many a time before, and it fits in his hand very nicely, not going anywhere. And then here's Luke with his waving hand, basically. It's a hand he uses when he does his little one-handed handstand and uses the force. And then we get a force hand here, and both these hands are proportioned very nicely and just look awesome. I really love how these look. They fit in there very nicely. They both have some articulation here. You can see this one kind of goes back but doesn't really go forward at all, so you can't really just have it sit down at his side. This one, on the other hand, no pun intended, has a little pivot that goes up and down. That looks kind of cool. So you can make it look like he's taking a swig of something or choking or just asking for money or something. I don't know. It looks very cool. I dig it. And I would get him in this one-handed handstand pose, but I cannot do it for the life of me. My joints are just loose on this guy and he's kind of falling over. But I'm sure if you mess with him enough, you will get it. It takes a lot of balance and work, but you can do it. It's just kind of a pain in the ass, and I cannot get him to do it right now. Apologies. And then lastly, you get this nifty little backpack here that looks pretty dope. You can see it just kind of pops in there with a little peg. It fits in there nice and snug. Very nice metallics on the buckles there. Overall, just really nice sculpt work. I'm glad this was not cloth. I would have not liked that. And again, Yoda does fit in there very, very nicely. Make sure you tuck his little rags in though, otherwise that looks kind of silly. Yeah, it's kind of annoying, but you can get it tucked in there pretty nicely. And then if you want this thing on Luke, make sure you pop this out, pivot that arm in there, just slide it in at an angle, tuck this under, and then you can kind of mess with it and pop that in. It's kind of a pain in the ass to do this at first, but it's not terribly hard. That goes in pretty easy and stays in pretty well. You can see I'm having some trouble here. There we go. It's in. And it sits on him very nice. It's not going anywhere. It's not coming off. And you can see Yoda chills on him on the back there. Very nice. And it just looks overall like a lot better than I thought it was going to look. I mean, in theory, like hypothetically, just putting a figure on another figure's back in a backpack sounds terribly awful. But this looks freaking amazing. They did a really, really good job making this just look great and just work in general. It's a very nice look and really is reminiscent of the movie. This Yoda looks great. Luke looks good. I really like how this backpack looks with Yoda in it. And here's a nice shot of Luke with his Force hand and his lightsaber hand on. That looks very dope. This guy can very, very easily hold his lightsaber in both hands, and you can get him into quite a few different little poses here and really make him look like he's swinging his lightsaber. So that's a very nice touch, and that's all possible because, again, Hasbro included these little butterfly joints here like we see on the G.I. Joe figures and the newest Empire Strikes Back Luke from the Battle of Hoth. They have that little butterfly joint, and it works so well and really allows them to hold the lightsaber with two hands, which is something I've desperately been wanting to see these Black Series figures, and now we have it, and it's so dope. I love that. Then here he is with his blaster in his hand on his wrist, and it looks pretty dope. I like it. And overall, I'm going to say this Mark Hamill head sculpt is really, really nice. I really, really like the paint they did with the hair here. A lot more than I like this paint, honestly. I really like this paint job, but this hair looks nicer overall. Honestly, the Mark Hamill head sculpt is pretty good in my opinion. I like the skin tone, consistency, and yeah, I really don't have any complaints about this head aside from the little bit of a weird hair size there. Not as long as it should be in my opinion. This looks a lot nicer. So I mean, really no complaints there. The shirt is basically pretty straightforward. It's a very nice texture, very dirty material because the dude's climbing around a swamp. You can see here he has his pants on that he wears in Cloud City, his old Bespin outfit, and it looks very dirtied up and badass. Same with the boots, very dirty, especially this really dark foot here. Not the same color as the boot, it's a lot darker. And I couldn't tell if it was just inconsistent, a different shade of brown, or if it's just because they wanted a dirtier look, and that's what I'm thinking. Aside from that, it's just overall really nice details with wrinkles and flaps and stuff. Looks very good. Everything looks just overall really well proportioned, in my opinion. I think the only thing I have a problem with this figure is one, he does not have a rotation at the waist, and two, there's no rotation at the boots. There's a rotation at the knee, and that really does not help you much. It just looks kind of freaking awkward, especially if you're like trying to, yeah, it just does not work, man. That's really dumb. I don't know why you wouldn't include a rotation there. It's not really going to make the sculpt look terrible or anything. It's just a rotation. That would have been nice. But I mean, that's one minor complaint I have. The rest of this dude makes up for it for the most part. He looks really nice. I really, really love the muscles on this guy. He's not overly jacked. He's not underjacked. He looks just like a human dude. He looks real. And I like that. It's an organic, fleshy, human look. And I really do like these joints. I know some people are going to be like, holy shit, there's no double joints, bro. But keep in mind, a lot of the time we see double joints, it's like either MCU figures it happens, or a lot of comic book figures with Marvel Legends. And I mean, this is much more natural looking. I really like this. And honestly, it really kind of works like a double joint. We have a huge range of motion with these. Look at that. And it blends in well. I don't really think it stands out. You can kind of see how it's like kind of funky looking there, kind of is cut, and you can see the shadow in there. But aside from that, this really blends in well when his arms are down, and I really like that, and I like the rotation here too. I think that works really well considering he is sleeveless, so this really blends in better with this fleshy kind of arm here. But the musculature of this guy is really natural and chilled looking. Overall, his detail is very nice. The wrinkles look good, the pants look good. I would have preferred two different rotations here. And honestly, I think this could have, I don't know, this almost looks a little too flat. His abdomen here and the actual crotch piece looks a little too flat. But I think they could have added some more definition there and made him a little more bubbly. But that's fine overall. I definitely think this guy has some great detail and has a very nice, natural, human look to him. So taking a look at Luke's articulation, you can see he actually, like the G.I. Joe figures, has a joint at the base of his neck. So his neck is moving in there. There's a little pocket where his neck moves. You can see it's on a little dumbbell joint in the neck there. So you actually get some really nice organic looking movement. His head looks back about that far, a little far forward, not too much movement there. But you can get a really nice side to side pivot there that just looks very natural. The arms go up decently far. They're okay. You can really see that joint is very visible and very ugly, but whatever. It's $20. Or no, this was $40 to buy. But I mean, each figure individually is $20 value. I'd say Yoda's more like 10 though, in my opinion, or 15. But still, this is a nice figure, and I do think he's worth the price. But he does have a little like a butterfly joint in there. That's just a little bit of movement, not a terrible amount, but just enough to really allow you to get him in the two-handed lightsaber holding pose. His arms do go all the way around. There is a rotation at the elbow as well as a single hinge here that actually works very, very nicely. Rotation at both wrists as well as hinges. This one goes in and out, while this one goes up and down at a very nice angle there. So very cool. For the other hands, I did show you the articulation earlier in the video, so I won't go over that again. But they have pretty much the same articulation, except this flat hand does not have a very big range of movement. Then you can see there's a swivel here. You can kind of get him to pivot back and forth as well and rotate. You can go forward a little bit and back a little bit. There is no rotation at the waist. The legs do go out, all right, pretty far. They go forward pretty far as well. They go back, not too far. There is a rotation here at the thigh. There's a rotation at the knee, as well as a single joint here, like a hinge. And it's okay. They actually sculpted this joint too, so it actually kind of blends in with the pants, but that cut is really, really visible when it bends. Aside from that, there's no rotation below there. There is a hinge at the foot, as well as a pretty decent ankle pivot. It goes back pretty far, but does not go forward too far. It's a little bit hindered by the boots. The only complaint I have is this guy is lacking some major articulation. There's just certain areas where you really could have added the articulation fine. Like with the G.I. Joe figures, you could have added that little swivel in there, or even just a small rotation or something. You could have added a rotation here at the boots, but it is what it is, and this guy has a beautiful look to him. He's a really nice looking figure. So I mean, sculpting at the expense of articulation, I don't know. It really has the essential articulation you need, so you can't complain too much, but it would have been nice to at least have the rotation there. Not huge points for articulation. That would have been terribly hard to include, so I'm kind of surprised they did not include those points. Then here he is next to the other Lukes that we got from the Empire Strikes Back Vintage Wave, and you can see they really updated this body between this Cloud City Luke and this Dagobah Luke. This one is much better proportioned. The head is much smaller, and overall just looks way better. So I'm really hoping they re-release this guy down the road, because this figure is a bit outdated and he doesn't look too nice in terms of proportion. But you can see the height between the three of these guys is pretty much exactly the same, so that should give you a nice reference of how tall he is. He's exactly where he should be. Then here's Luke next to Vader, and again, the height is just perfect. His head is right like at his jaw, Vader's jaw, and I mean, I really love that. That's just perfect height. I just want to show you again the articulation on these hands, so I don't want you to miss that. It does have a very nice pivot that goes back and forth and up and down as well. So very nice hinge there. And then here you can see his hand goes forward, like not at all, but goes back quite a bit. Aside from that, he just has the rotation, so not a whole ton of articulation with this hinge. And this here is why I want a rotation at the calf instead of up here. It just creates some really, really awkward posing, man. This is awful, because you can see these are getting all mixed up. This is where the knee is supposed to be, and I want him to just kind of have a pose where he's leaning forward here, but it just looks awkward. You really can't do too much, and these get really mixed up, so that's kind of annoying. It'd be nice if they just had the cut down here right at the start of his calf muscle or something. That would have been a lot better at his start of his boot, really. So it's kind of a bummer, but that's really my one major complaint about Luke. So overall, I definitely would recommend picking this pack up. It's a beautiful update on Yoda. It's a very classic looking Yoda. The Yoda everyone, grew up with and just got to know, really, before we got the prequel Yoda and all that stuff. He looks very much like the Empire Strikes Back Yoda, so very, very much need to update. Looks fantastic. This Luke Skywalker is really the figure with some problems, in my opinion, just because of the articulation. Aside from that, this guy is amazing. They really fixed the size of his head. The proportioning of Luke is a lot more anatomically correct than it used to be. This is by far my favorite Luke figure aside from the Hoth Luke. So very, very nice Luke figure. Beautiful sculpt work. Really, really cool accessories. And I love the fact that this backpack works. So overall, definitely suggest you go out and pick this up. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. I hope you subscribe. I hope you liked it. Comment below and let me know what you think of this pack. Which Yoda do you prefer? The one we got previously or this brand new one? And how do you feel about his size and the old Yoda size? Do you think it's a good size? Do you think it's a needed update? Do you think there's a size somewhere in between that would work better? Overall, just let me know what you think of this. Please comment, like this video, and stay tuned for more. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep collecting. Peace.